Hi guys, this is Mrs. Anderson. I can't be with you in person, but I made this video so it'd be like I was there with you. So I'm going to give you the notes, so I want you to follow along with me and then the note sheet that you have in front of you, so you could kind of write this as you go. These are pretty easy identities to get you started. Notice that now you have something on the right side. So now you know what you want to get your left side to look like. The big important thing is that you don't want to move things from one side to the other side. You never do that when you're doing an identity. Okay, let's look at the first one. You guys should recognize that you can take that cosecant and write it as 1 over sine. And it's just pure multiplication. So I'm going to multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. So that leaves me with cosine x all over sine x, which is cotangent x. So I know I'm done when I get it to look like the other side. So there's number 1. There you go. There's your identity. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, number 2. All right, let's look at number 2. So again, I see I have a cosecant here. Oops, sorry. Let me get my pen. I have a cosecant here, so I'm going to write that as 1 over sine x. And then bring down my cosine x over sine x. And what do I notice? I notice that I have a common denominator, so that means I can add my numerators together. And that's all over sine. And that's exactly what I wanted it to look like on the other side. So we're done. On number 3, what do we notice? We notice that we have a conjugates, so I'm just going to multiply those together. So I know when I multiply conjugates, the middle terms cancel out, so I'm going to end up with 1 minus secant squared. But that reminds me to look at my little cheat sheet, and I notice that 1 minus secant squared isn't up there, but secant squared minus 1 is. So secant squared minus 1 is tangent, so 1 minus secant squared is going to be minus tangent. And I got that one done in 2 steps. It's exactly what I wanted it to look like. And because I'm letting you use that little handy dandy cheat sheet, it's okay for you to do it this way. You don't have to do anything special. Okay. All right, so for number 4, I noticed that numerator, we did problems like that before, where there's a bunch of multiplication. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to write everything in sines and cosines. So this is going to be cosine over sine. It's my cotangent, and secant is 1 over cosine, but that's all over. Now you can choose to leave it secant, or you could write it as 1 over cosine. So in this problem, I'll choose to write it as 1 over cosine. All right, let's see what's happening up here. Because up here is all multiplication, I can cross out my signs, because sine over sine is 1, cosine over cosine is 1. So remember, that leaves me with a 1 here. So my numerator becomes 2 all over 1 over cosine. But I'm going to make that 2 look like a fraction. And when I go to flip my cosine, it becomes in the numerator. So I end up with 2 cosine theta, which is what I wanted. Now you guys on your paper should always work down. My writing on an iPad is really messy and hard, so I kind of went over, but you guys should be all writing your steps one underneath the other. Okay, let's do 5. 5 is another pretty easy one. These are just getting you ready to recognize the things that we've been working with. So again, we have a conjugate, and this becomes 1 minus sine squared. But what is 1 minus sine squared? Look at your little sheet, or by now maybe some of you are getting the hang of this. 1 minus sine squared is cosine squared. And notice, having something on the right side or the other side kind of helps you tell you what to do. Kind of guide you to what you want it to look like. Okay, we're done with that. Alrighty, 6. I'm going to use my little shortcut. of taking what's in the denominator and writing it up in the numerator. So I know that secant in the denominator is a cosine in the numerator. So there's a cosine. I already had a cosine. Okay, so my denominator is a 1, so I'm not going to bother with, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to put, whoa, wait, hold on, I'm ahead of myself here. I'm going to erase that. Okay, so I brought up a cosine, I already had a cosine, so when I multiply those two together, that becomes cosine squared, which is exactly what I was looking for. And we're done. Now remember, these are pretty easy. We're easing our way in to how these identities work. 7's the same kind of problem. I'm going to use my little shortcut. A secant in the denominator is a cosine in the numerator, and a cosecant in the numerator is a sine in the denominator. So cosecant over secant can be really rewritten as cosine over sine, and we all know that cosine over sine is cotangent. Boom, we're done. Same idea for number 8. A cotangent in the denominator is a tangent in the numerator, so I'm basically done in one step. And this, you could do it this way because I am showing you that shortcut. Normally you would have to write cotangent as cosine over sine and tangent is sine over cosine and do all that flipping, but because I'm showing you the shortcut, for me it's okay to do that. Okay, for number 9, this is one of those things where it's good to look ahead. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, geez, that's a difference of 2 squares. Maybe if I factor it, I can cancel out something. So I know that it factors into 1 minus cosine and then a 1 plus cosine. But in the denominator, I have a 1 plus cosine. And you can think of that as a binomial. So I'm going to put parentheses around it to make it think, so I can think of it as one thing. Oh, this can cancel with that. Any number over itself is equal to 1. This was pure multiplication. So I'm left with 1 minus cosine, which is exactly what I wanted. Alrighty, on the last one, I'm going to do my little flipping thing. So I'm going to say, well, cosine squared in the denominator is really a secant squared in the numerator. And a cotangent in the denominator is a tangent in the numerator. So I wasn't afraid to change it to the secants and the tangents, okay? But if you look on your little cheat sheet thing, we can see that secant squared minus tangent squared is 1. So there's your notes. We're done with that. So now it's your job to work on the identities. There's a lot of them, a lot of different ones on the worksheet. So I don't expect you to get them all done, but try as many as you can. Help each other. Do it on a separate piece of paper because there's not enough room. And then when I see you on Wednesday, we can talk about this and we can talk about the back sheet of the worksheet that I gave you on Thursday. Okay, so we got lots of stuff to go over when I see you on Wednesday. Okay, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.